So, if you've been following my channel for some time, you would know that in May of this year, I changed. I used to be known as SpongeBob Fan 190, but let's be honest, that name was a little ridiculous. So in May of this year, I decided that I need to change the name. So, Perfect Tube 12 came to mind, so that's what I named it as. If you want to know what it means, read the description. I'm not putting that in the video, so I feel it's appropriate to make this video because it's almost the end of the year and I haven't made a video since the change of the name, so I'm just gonna do it now and get it done with. So the first part of the video I had no intention of adding to the original vision of the video, but since I'm too lazy to make this into two separate videos, I said screw it, and yeah, so it's gonna be this in the same video. So if you don't want to hear the beginning of this video and you just want to hear my review of the Loud House, then I'll put a time in the annotation to where you should skip to just hear that and miss. Yeah, so anyways, on to the video. So for those of you that didn't know, Carrie Fisher, who was known as Princess Leia in the original Star Wars trilogy the um and the new sequels that are coming out. Yeah, she tragically died on the 27th of December this year, 2016. And I feel this kind of shocked me personally because, Star Wars is a part of my childhood, and to hear that one of the actors for the leads, to hearing that one of the lead actors died is just breathtaking. And we all probably know what took place. She had a heart attack on a plane, was in the hospital for quite some time, and then she later died. And to make matters worse, a day later, her mother, Debbie Reynolds, I'm not familiar with her work, she died a day later. And it's just sad, one person dies and then the next day a relative of their, or no, a blood related relative of theirs died. And wow. 2016. And and speaking of 2016, I feel that it's worth mentioning that Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker, said on Twitter after Carrie Fisher had the heart attack, he posted a tweet that said something along the lines of, as if 2016 couldn't get any worse, prayers out to Carrie Fisher, something along those lines. And I feel, and when he said as if 2016 couldn't get any worse, yep, it got worse because Carrie Fisher died, and then the next day her mother died. So pretty much, yeah. So got worse, and then it went straight to hell. It didn't just get worse; it went to hell. So to end this, so I can get to the review. Rest in peace, Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds. You will not be forgotten, and kill. May the force be with you. So, now I'm on to the review of the show, The Loud House. I think, okay, believe it or not, The Loud House is actually the best thing to ever happen to Nickelodeon in recent times. But I gotta be honest, when I first came across this show, my brother was watching Nickelodeon. I saw the commercials and I thought this show was gonna be cancer. The commercials, it just makes the show look like total cancer. But then I gave it a chance, and I gave it a chance, and it was great. Like, you know I feel it's great that kids get a good show in recent times and not garbage like whatever's on Nick now. I think the Thundermans, yeah, that show, it looks fucking awful and unwatchable. But anyway, the thing that I really like about The Loud House is that I feel the show has good animation and voice acting, and probably, and for a show in recent times, some really good writing. Like, we all know what the show is about. It's about a boy named Lincoln Loud who has to live, who's right smack in the middle of 10 sisters, which, and I feel this is kind of like a parallel to that book, Bridge to Terabithia. I read it in middle school, where it's like the protagonist of that book was right smack, except, obviously, like, the protagonist of that book didn't have 10 sisters. He had 4, but he was right smack in the middle. So, I liked that book back in middle school, and, but, that's not the only thing that this show reminds me of. Like, the show, it's not about, stupidity for 11 minutes. It has morals and lessons, and yeah, morals. If the show focuses on morals and life lessons, and it kind of reminds me of shows I watched in my childhood, like Hey Arnold and Arthur. It's shows that are about life and the real world, and that's that's what I like about The Loud House. Like, the writing, the characters have moral, like, the show focuses on morals and life lessons, some of which I could relate to back when I was a kid. So, but I'm not going to get into that. And one thing that I actually really like about the show is how Lincoln's sisters are not just generic cookie cutter characters. Like, they each have their own personalities and character traits that make them unique, which is what makes anything good. There's, I feel that, to make a good show, or just a good story in general, with multiple that revolve around multiple characters, like, the characters have to have their own distinct personalities that, you know they can't be cookie cutter. That's what I'm saying, because, like, when all the characters are just the same, it's just really dull and drab. Like, I was, typically, so anyways, like, an example of what I mean is, like, it's like, here's an example. Like, I would, like, so, earlier this year, I got into I was watching the anime Yu Yu Hakusho after, because, like, I remember hearing about it when I was a kid, but I never got around to watching it. So I finally got around to watching it this year, and one thing that I really liked about that anime was just, how each of the protagonists, Yusuke, Urameshi, Kazuma, Kuwabara, Karama, and Hiei, like, they're all they all have different personalities, and I felt that the chemistry between the 4 characters was it was perfect. Like, I wouldn't say it's the best show I've ever seen, I've ever watched, but I did like the personalities of the 4 characters and the chemistry that they had with each other. But yeah, that's for a different topic. So back to The Loud House. And so yeah, I did mention that it reminds me of Hey Arnold and Arthur, which is, with its writing about morals and life lessons, and it's not about stupidity for 11 minutes, which I don't have a problem with, but that sort of thing kind of takes talent to pull off, which is what most Nick shows fail to do in recent times. But anyways, so on to some episodes. Like, I will admit, okay, well, not really episodes, just an analysis of of Lincoln. So, there are some times in the show where Lincoln will act like a self-centered asshole towards, not just towards his best friend Clyde or his sisters, but, I think this works out really well because because at the end of every episode where he's an asshole, he learns from his mistake and feels guilty for behaving like that. And, without sharing my life story or anything, I could relate to this in a way because I used to kind of act like that towards people for whatever reason and over stupid things, and I felt guilty about it, and I learned my lesson. So one thing I really liked about this show is how how relatable it can be to some people, like based on their experience or something. And yeah, so an example where Lincoln was acting like an asshole was this one episode where he won a limo in a contest and he promised to take his sisters to a burger joint. And then along the way, where he was spending a day in his limo, he met some rich asshole in a limo and he started acting like that snotty piece of crap. And it got to a point where it got to his head, and he didn't keep his promise to his sisters. They got pissed, obviously. And then the episode ended with him learning how much of a jerk he was acting. He apologized, and then he took his sisters in on his promise and pulled it off. And see, you just don't see many shows like that anymore where they focus on morals and life lessons, and it's just a rarity. I mean, like, with all the stupidity that's been coming on Nickelodeon in recent times, like Fanboy and Chum Chum and Marvin Marvin and other crap on Nickelodeon lately, I feel the Loud House is just a breath of fresh air from all that crap, because yeah, it's a great show. And I think, like, the realism, like, I think it's hot. I mean, well, considering like how realistic the show is, like, obviously this is what a house with 11 kids is probably gonna look like. I mean, I wouldn't know because I don't come from a large family, so obviously I wouldn't know what that's like. But I wouldn't know what it's like personally, but looking at the Loud House, I can tell that that's what it would probably be like. So, and yeah, the show, it does have duds here and there. But okay, so before I close out this video, you probably read it in the title. Is this show enough to can this show save Nickelodeon? And in my honest opinion, the answer to that is no. It can't save it. By itself, it won't be able to save Nickelodeon. But if Nickelodeon makes more smart choice, if Nickelodeon, when it comes to, like, selecting shows for their lineup, if they make more smart choices like the Loud House, more shows that are as good as the Loud House, and less shows, if they pick more shows like the Loud House and less shows like Fanboy and Chum Chum, then I think the channel can be redeemed. And the show, it has its flaws. Like, there's some bathroom humor thrown in here and there, but I think it kind of works out well in the show sometimes because, I think the thing with, like, gross out and toilet humor is, the audience is supposed to cringe with the characters, which is what most modern Nick shows, looking at you, modern SpongeBob, that's what they fail at. Like, they just put in all this gross out bullshit just to shock the audience, and it's like, oh my god, no. I think Nickelodeon needs to just can SpongeBob and especially Fairly Odd Parents, because yeah, I'm not even gonna talk about Fairly Odd Parents because that show, it's on life support, but that's for a completely different video. So anyway, yeah, I think if Nickelodeon makes more smart choices by picking more more good shows like The Loud House and less crap like Fanboy and Chum Chum, and excuse me, and if they cancel shows like SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents, then the channel can be redeemed. So, this has been a new video. I'd like to say happy belated holidays and happy New Year. So this has been my first video since I changed the name to Perfect Tube 12, and I don't know when a new, I just haven't been finding the time to be making new videos. So this will be so usually if I'm about to upload a new video, I'll let you guys know as soon as possible. But until then, goodbye.